Shalom. Hello class, it's time for another lesson in Hebrew. This is not that different from what you'll find in your Kelly book or on our open class site, but some people like to hear it, and I enjoy sharing it in different ways. The good news is that we don't have really a lot of information again this semester, just some new applications of the same information, some more practice with those same old nifals and hifils and especially calls. But I want to start with the logistics. Our vocabulary this week is shorter. It will only cover vocabulary from chapters 22 and 23. The grammar quiz asks some questions about verbs and gutturals. It will review some principles from last week as well as principles you'll hear from me today. So I'll get to those in just a moment. And finally, the memory quiz is going to be the whole priestly blessing, number 6, 24 through 26. And I won't bother singing or reading that because I emailed you some lovely versions that are on YouTube of people who are doing that better. Weekly exercises are listed on that part of the page. And I do ask you on the forum this week, everyone just write something. That way I know you're there and I get to hear from you. Now, let's talk about gutturals, and let's start basic. Gutturals are which consonants? Aleph, ayin, hey, chet, and often resh. These 5 consonants can mess up the normal things we expect a verb to do in the imperfect, in the perfect, in the hifil perfect or hifil imperfect. Why? Because they don't double, because they don't take a shava, and because they're made in the back of the throat. Aleph, ayin, resh, chet, hey, all in the back of the throat. And in the back of the throat here, the vowels like O and I and A, when don't come up, when you're coming up about to pronounce a guttural, you don't want to say I or A in the front of the throat and then go back to a guttural in the back of the throat. Instead, you want to change some of those to ah, or sometimes sigol, but patak, kamet, sometimes sigol are more commonly found both right after a guttural, but especially right before a guttural. Sometimes there's that furtive patak, a patak that's added in just to make it easier to read a guttural. Now, in general, you can see the furtive patak. You can see an extra ah in the word that would not be there in your original paradigm chart, and you can still parse the word. So, for example, if you have the basic perfect, that is amar, it's already an ah. So if there's a guttural there, it's not going to change. Katal, amar. But if you have an imperfect that says yiktol, but then you take a verb like asa that has a guttural in it, asa, you won't say ye ase, ye say, the way you'll do yiktol. Instead, you'll have ya ase. The I will change to ah. This week, chapter 24, 25, and 26, they talk about basically try to recognize these verb forms when the second or third letter of the verb is a guttural. Not like asa, where the first letter is a guttural, but other ones like ma'an, where it's the middle consonant that is a guttural. What does that mean for our verb paradigms? Well, it means that it'll be harder to recognize a PL, right? A PL doubles the middle consonant by putting a dagesh in it. Gutturals can't take a dagesh, and so suddenly you have a situation where a verb is PL, like birek, barak, and it should be PL, it is PL, but you can't tell it's PL because the resh doesn't have a dagesh in it, and the vowel before it is no longer I, and so you can't tell that it's a PL. Let me tell you 2 things. One is you can sometimes spot it, especially if, say, it's in the imperfect yibarek, where the shava under the preformative gives it away that it's a PL. The other thing, let me tell you, is that if you don't know it's a PL, that's okay. you can still translate it, because a PL translates more or less the same as a call in so many situations. And because of that, you don't need to worry a lot about the differences. You will spot most of those. The only exception is that sometimes there will be a nifal for those words beginning with a guttural, or a hifil in those words beginning with a guttural, that you'll miss that it's hifil and nifal, and you need to know that, because nifal means it's passive, and you need to know whether somebody is killing or being killed. You need to know whether something is speaking or being spoken. So watch carefully for the possibility of a nifal, where the Seire under the preformative says, ooh, it's nifal, the noon dropped, but we weren't able to put the dagesh in the first root consonant because there was a guttural there. But other than that, just kind of go with the flow, allow the vowels to shift a little bit, still be able to parse, still be able to translate, and it will work. Chapter 25 deals with verbs whose final consonant is a guttural. Chapter 26 deals with verbs whose final consonant is an aleph. The aleph will sometimes quiesce. It'll kind of mess up the syllable pattern of the verb. But in the end, the endings will still be there. The preformatives will still be there. You'll still be able to parse the verbs, the same as if they were regular verbs. Well, that is the guttural verbs in a nutshell. You'll be doing exercises, and if you can figure out why Kelly in the answer key gives the answers it does, if you can figure out how you can parse these verbs when you see them, then you're fine. If you can't tell how to parse these verbs when you see them, if there's something you don't understand why the answer key says what it does, then please post that as a question. I will direct you to the exact right page of the exercise that you'll need to look at, or the exact right page of the lesson that will explain that exercise. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and read some of the vocabulary from these 3 chapters, because they'll be in the exercises. Even though we're not doing a vocabulary quiz on them, I like you to be able to hear, see, pronounce aloud. I recommend that you go to these pages, that you read them with me, in order that you just begin the process of memorizing them. Next week we'll have a vocabulary quiz on these 3 new chapters. So the first new chapter is chapter 24. The vocabulary list is on page 262. It has the words he tested, which is bahan, he chose, which is bahar, a very important election word, bahar. He or it burned, ba'ar. He cried out, za'ach. He hastened, which is Mem Hey Reish. It's not Mahar because it's not in call. It will be Meher in the PL. Nachal, he took possession or inherited, is Nachal. He was sorry or had compassion or suffered grief or repented. Lots of meanings for this one. Is Nacham. Again, it's not in the call, but it will be in the PL or Hifil. He laughed is Tzahak. That's the word connected for Isaac. He cried out, Tza'ak. Notice just one consonant different. He laughed or jested, Sachak. He killed or slaughtered, Shachat. And finally some non-verbs. Another or other is Acher. Behind or after is Achar. An enemy is an Oyev. Herd or cattle, Bakar. A tower or fortress is Migdal. That comes from Gadal, to be great. So a tall or great thing is a tower or fortress. A Zevak is a sacrifice. Remember, we've already had the verb Zavak, to sacrifice. And Mincha is an offering or gift or tribute. Chapter 25, the vocabulary is on page 274. He swallowed or consumed is Bala. He split open, Baka. He was high or proud, Gava. He sowed, Zara, like the word for seed, Zera, but he sowed is Zara. He knelt or bowed down is Kara. He anointed is Mashach. That's what we get the word Mashiach, Messiah, from. Mashach, he anointed. He forgave, Salach. He met or interceded, Paga. He opened, patach. An opening to a tent is a petach. He opened is patach. He tore, kara. He killed or murdered, ratzach. He was satisfied or sated, sava. High place is a bama. The bamot are the high places where people worshipped. A tzor is a rock. The end is kates. A table is shulchan. The sun is shemesh. The sun is shemesh. And generations are toledot. This is like in Genesis where it says, these are the generations of. The toledot of comes from yalad, which means to bear, right? Toledot, the generations. Finally, chapter 26, its vocabulary is on page 285. He hid is the consonants chava. He was unclean, tameh. He prophesied the consonants nava. Remember, a prophet is a navi. He was thirsty is tzameh. He collected or gathered is kavatz. This is like the kibbutz in Israel, the communes or collections of people. He was holy is kadash. Remember, kodesh we've already had, kadosh. He destroyed or corrupted is shachat. He was whole or complete is shalem, related to shalom. Peace means wholeness. Tool, weapon, or vessel is a kali. An utterance or oracle is naum. This is used a lot, but usually just in the phrase naum Adonai, which is sometimes translated thus says the Lord or proclaims the Lord, but is literally utterance of the Lord, oracle of the Lord. Around or surrounding is saviv. That's a preposition, saviv. 10 is eser or asara. Righteousness is tzedek. I don't know if you know this, but the Sadducees probably comes from a word for righteous ones. Tzedek. Righteousness is tzedakah. 7 is sheva or shiv'ah. Beer-sheva, Beersheba. One of the etymologies says it comes from the number 7. And gate is sha'ar. Well, lots of vocabulary. I hope you're able to read it along. I hope that as you look at these chapters, you're mainly able to just do the exercises. You don't have to produce weak Hebrew verbs with gutturals in them. Instead, you have to be able to read them and recognize them. So, shalom, and I'll talk to you again.